welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to explain that what is DevOps, what are the use of it, how can they utilize DevOps features, and where should they implement all those things. So that's what we are going to discuss today. So in last videos, I already explained some interview questions and answers. I think it's almost I think it's 1 to 10. So in this video, I'm going to extend more interview questions. Okay. So first of all, let's try to understand the DevOps. Okay, so in last video talked about this topic. So that's one way of the DevOps. Okay, so in this video, I'm trying to use another way to explain to you what is DevOps. Okay. So DevOps is inspired agile process. Okay, agile is a methodology which say that we should build our application, or you can call it code, in such a pattern, in such a fashion that should be MVP. It means minimal verbal product. The product which you are building, so that should be delivered, that should be deliverable in pieces. Okay, so then DevOps is just not about tools, but it is involving, or it is involvement of people and the process of and the process together. Okay, so for example, if a single person is trying to implement about that is quite not possible, reasoning all the teams which are part of that organization or which are part of a development process, so they should collaborate just to deliver the product in time. Okay, it will require multiple processes. So DevOps is a collaboration of people and process. Okay, so DevOps is about automating the development, release, and operation process. So what does it mean? Okay, so it means that whenever we are talking about DevOps, so things should be automatically. Each and every component in the organization should not be done manually. For example, if a developer committing code, so developer is not supposed to push the code on to development or maybe on a staging server. That should be done automatically. Once the developer has committed the code in Gate, or maybe you know when when the development when the developer commit the code to the repository, so that should be picked up by some tools, that should be built. If that is required, that should be deployed, that should be tested automatically. Okay, so DevOps is such a methodology where things are automatic and those are working in like a proper process. Okay, so DevOps helps to speed up the deliver applications to end users. So it means when any component is ready, so we are not going to wait for entire production to be ready to be delivered. So deliver so a new feature has been developed which user can start using, and that is not having the finance rest of the components. So that's the DevOps. That is how DevOps is helping people to develop their application, to deliver their application to end user, because all the goals is to deliver new feature to end user as they can utilize it. Okay. So it is about continuous improvement. For example, today we have one component automated, and obviously teams are working teams in the sense whether they can be, they can be DevOps or they can be ops team. Like both the team has become sitting together, they are putting their collaborate effort into automation, and they are obviously helping each other. Okay, so they are learning something new. It means DevOps is all about learning and improvement. So whenever we are talking about DevOps, obviously, like those should be proper communication, okay, and collaboration. So whenever there's something which known as communication. So it means everything should be written manner. If there's a gap, that has to be immigrated, basically master, and that should be proper communication and collaboration. Okay. So what about the best practice of DevOps? Next question. Okay. So the next question is the best practice for DevOps implementation. Okay. Here I have some very important highlights here. Okay. So first of all the top leaders of organization should agree that definitely we are ready to adopt a DevOps process. Reason being because when DevOps come to picture, so many organization and all the developers who are working there from the very first day they have problem. So the reason being because whenever there's a change into a previous methodology, so people are not ready to adopt that. So that should be agreed, that should be accepted by your top level management. Okay, there should be a certain need of change. What does this means? Like, if you have a plan to go for DevOps implementation, you should try to understand what is need here to implement DevOps. So we really need it. So it should not be like there's only four people working and all the four people are sitting in the same table and that they are implementing the DevOps. Okay, so when there are gaps, when there are communication gap, so the DevOps should be there to fulfill, to bridge that gap. Okay, then after DevOps, the team always encourage people to communicate and collaborate. Obviously, there should be a collaborative effort to bridge the gap between the development and operating team, because there is a euro thing, which is a thing that developers are asking that our coding is working on a development server, or present team is saying that it could be working, but when it comes to production, it doesn't work. So there has to be a bridge. There has to be a person, a team, or a process which can fill in the gap between the development and operation team. There should be a bridge. So that bridge is known as a DevOps. It means DevOps team can now say that this issue is coming from developer side. DevOps team cannot say that this is coming from operation side, because they are DevOps. Okay, so it means developer as well as operation guys. Okay, so they're responsible for also things. It means if something goes wrong, then the WAPs team have to take help of a developer or from operation team. But definitely they have to provide the solution. Okay. Now the DevOps implementation is not successful without a CI/CD. Okay. So as with in previous slides we were talking about, so CI/CD should be there. It means continuous integration and continuous deployment should be there. Without that, DevOps implementation is not then successful. So moreover, DevOps team has to ensure that application is working fine at all the appropriate level. How does it should behave on the development server, on staging server, on testing server, and finally your production server? After deployment, there should be proper sanity for each and everything. For each and every component of application, there should be testing. It could be possible that the particular component which you are going to deploy today, that can break down. Some another component which were earlier working fine. So for sure, there should be a proper way. Okay. Okay. Now let's go for the next question. So what are the key components of DevOps? Okay. So obviously, continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and continuous monitoring. So what does a continuous integration means? Okay, let's see next question. What is the continuous integration means? Okay, let's see here. Continuous integration means that a developer has developed a code, a developer has committed to the code to source control. Then, after it's time to release, there should be a tool to build that code. Then, after once that is deployed, so there should be a proper testing. And once testing done, so report should be published whether the software is working fine or not. So that's the thing here. If things are working fine, then developer will go on next phase of development. If that is not working, then the developer will start immediately restart working on that particular piece of code which has going back. So that is known as continuous integration. It means as soon as the developer commits the code onto the gate or maybe SVN, so it means your source code repository should be triggered for deployment. Now, what is a continuous delivery? Okay, let's go for next topic. So what is continuous delivery? Okay. Continuous delivery means that when we plan for development, obviously developer will create it, someone will verify, and then after your software, it could be Jenkins, it could be Bamboo, it could be Circle CI, or so on and so forth. Okay, there are multi tools. These tools are used to build or to you, or you can call it like a package, the software, then after it will be released. Then after it will configured properly on production environment, because obviously we have a separate environment on Maven, on production environment, we have a separate database, we have a separate URLs, so that we will be properly configured, okay? And finally, it will be monitored. If things are working fine, then we will have a plan for new development. If things are not working fine, so we have to plan the how to fix it. So it means plan, create, verify, package, release, configuration, and monitor. So this particular cycle goes on in continuously manner. That's why it is known as a continuous delivery. Okay, next topic. Now, what is the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment? So both the things are almost same, but at the very final stage, if you try to understand, so there's only one difference. That within continuous delivery. Okay, let's see here. Continuous delivery. Okay, here. And this is continually deployment. Let's see here. Okay. So within the continuously delivery, so all the things are done automatically on staging environment and on production environment. But when it comes to deployment, so who will commit is automated test case are written in automatic integration. Acceptance test is automated. But when it comes to continuously delivery, so we deploy code to production server in manual manner, okay? But if it comes to continuously deployment, so continuous deployment means code who committed to the integration, acceptance test, and the deployment to production, all the things are automatic. So if things goes bad, so obviously there are some checks. If the things are not working fine, there will be rollback automatically. So this is how things work, and this thing is known as continuous deployment. Okay, so if you see at the very last section, at the last boxes, so there are only one change, one difference in there. Okay, so in continuous delivery, so been deployed to production in a manual manner, but in the continuous deployment, every stage we deploy it in the automatic manner. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, let's see the next question. Okay. Oh, this one we already talked about it in previous interview question video, and also this one we already talked about it. So very final thing I want to mention about is what are the tools which we used for DevOps, okay, in today's industry. So first of all is Jira. Jira is for requirement getting would task tracking for your task estimation like how much time we are going to take for using a sprint user storing, planning, and obviously like a performance together, performance measurement, how much time is being given to what project. So this sort of tasks are performed using GR and Gate. And Gate and SVP and those like source code, main source code is like a self control management tool. They are whenever your developer are doing code, so they are pushing their code either to Gate or SVM. Okay, to Gate or to SVN. Okay, same here. Like if you are talking about same thing if you talk about Bitbucket. Okay, Bitbucket is also integrated with Gate or maybe SVN, so that is very public as that is very public. Okay, Jenkins is a huge for build and deployment. Okay, what is a Jenkins? Jenkins is a Java-based tool where you can create your build and you can start deploying. You can integrate a single view for test automation. You can integrate artifact repository with Jenkins for sure. Okay, if you want to collect the artifact on a different server, so obviously on the same server you can integrate Artifactory as a repository. Okay, so you can deploy this as a separate software. So Artifactory on Nexus, both are your artifact management software you are using in the same manner. So Bamboo or replacements of Jenkins, either you can use a Jenkins for deployment or you can use Bamboo, for the code quality testing. Okay, or you can use Bamboo. SonarCube is for code quality testing. Okay, so Docker is a tool which is useful container of application. It means you can run your code in separate environment. If you really want to go for Docker, so I'm going to create 40 to 45 videos on my channel that how to use Docker. Okay, you can check it out. After we're gonna talking about Chef, Puppet, Ansible. Okay, is a configuration management tools. Okay, those are even you have a 5,000 or maybe 1,000 service, you need to modify any single configuration file. So you need not to go on every server. What it will be doing is you can modify on your master where from you are managing your configuration management on that will be done. It means there's no other needs to log into every server once you have a configured it. So obviously your things will be managed automatically. Okay. Now Kubernetes. Okay, Kubernetes is nature tools for Docker. Whenever you have maybe thousands of Docker running, you want to automatic them. You want to automate them together. So you want to you want to go for some additional level of configuration. So definitely Kubernetes either Nagios and Splunk are for monitoring and all the tools which we have just discussed about it. So based on all the tools, Linux. So it means Linux is such an operation system. That means Linux is such an operating system. If you want to become a DevOps, then you must know it. Without Linux, it will be really hard to deploy and debug and manage your tools. So Linux is the boss. Okay, that's it. Okay, let's move forward to continuous integration now. Okay, so for this section, we have different questions related about continuous integration questions. So remember, I just had a brief introduction of how the continuous integration, how to work here. So I think I just explained here. I'm going to use another way, try to explain more about it, okay? So continuously integration is defined basically based on the commit that you are doing. So every commit that you are doing to a repository or every change that you do has to be immediately compiled and build and integrate. So that's called continuous integration. So the continuous integration best practice that you do a commit on your own branch, for example, but continuously integrate the change to the trunk or to the master or to the main line of the code so that it can be compiled immediately, and then the feedback will be given back whether this fail or successful. So, for example, you are a developer, you are working on a single feature, and for that purpose, you create a separate feature branch culture, and then you actually done your coding, you have compiled it on your desktop perfectly. Okay, so it's perfectly fine. But how sure you are that code actually work with the code that another developer are actually doing it? So that's actually is what integration means. You integrate your code with other developers, and then that integrated code has to be compiled, has to be tested whether if it's working or not. So that is actually continuous integration. So you commit your change and then you integrate your change to other people's changes, and then you build it and test it and deploy it. So those are the best practice if you read the called continuous integration. One of them that I like is that all the code by all the developers has to be committed directly on the trunk, and then the trunk or the main branch or the master branch, and that master branch has to be integrated with a convenient integration server. For example, Jenkins or Bamboo that actually should pull all the number of comments, and for each comments, the bill should trigger, and then should be an automatically test that trigger, and there should be a deployment that should be followed by this particular the particular comment. So each comment is actually the result you build and your test and optionally and then deploy it, right? That is basically about continuous integration. So next question is mention some of the common used Jenkins plugs, okay? So for this question, the Gate plugin and SSH plugin is essential because it has to be contact with a source control system, but to monitoring and necessary plugin very basic. Okay, so SSH plugin is very basic plugin to log into remote machines, okay, to do something more and more commands for copies file and the next one, the build pipeline plugin. So it basically the pipeline is actually it's a convention mechanic that you can use for to create an option when downstream connections. So basically the pipeline you can actually build, and you can see the entire view of your building and the deployment to different environment and the staging and the production extra. So that purpose you can use build a pipeline, and then okay, next one, email X plug. Okay, so in that space for the different notification as soon as you get some result out of the build, and the HTML plugin also to publish reports. Multi-slave configuration plugin is basically to allow the administrator to know configure these things are basically our agent for change the agents to run the jobs remotely on a remote server, and to management them you can use multi-slave configuration plug. Okay, so parameterized trigger plugin, and is another plan that actually let you build based on the parameter. I can pass various parameters during the building in phase, and there are several more. I mean, there are just the budging them that there's other plugin, like for example you want to position, you can use check out if you are probably connector with HOVS, you can easily add as a plugin. Okay, and if you want to use it, for example, Docker image, you can use Docker plugin. And there are plugins that you can also use some of the basic plugins such as native plugins, native plugin or Jenkins, for example, and for the dashboard release, for the dashboard, all the dashboards, you can use advanced topic like Java DSL to kind of manage all your jobs and scrape your whole infrastructure of Jenkins. Ever call, you can use the Java DSL plugin, and where else there are plugins that there's a use so these are basics. Okay, so let's do the next question. Okay, next question is explain Jenkins distributed architecture, or what is the need for this architecture. Okay. Why? So Jenkins is basically a distributed architecture. As you can see, there's a master server that actually can be configured with all the jobs and the requirements and everything. Then you can actually choose a particular job to run on a different server, right? So why? Because it's because, for example, you want to deploy a code, on a Linux box, and then you want to deploy the same code on a Windows box, for example, on a different Linux distribution. So for that purpose, you need to connect to that server and then do it as actively. So that or can be automatically by actually installing Jenkins slave on each of those nodes and then running it. So that's where, and then you have like a village in moment, each environment can be treated as a separate combination of a separate place. So Jenkins master is not just enough. You just need to have a Jenkins sleeve. So you can use as many as a sleeve as possible because it's an open source tool. You are not paying for this, right? So this is actually the distributor architecture of Jenkins. Okay. So let's do next question. So next question, how will you secure your Jenkins? Okay, so in other words, what are the best security practices sort of Jenkins? Okay, so so the question is you being sure that the global security is a parameter again in the configuration settings of Jenkins. You actually set on so that not everyone like anonymous user can access it. So you are actually restricting numerous user, and you are enabling actually security, and you can integrate properly very well with your extra of your company. But that's also one of the best way, and actually is a good way of doing securing your Jenkins. Okay, the next thing is you have to be able something called a project matrix in Jenkins, so you can choose who can access which project. So that's actually possible by project matrix in Jenkins. Okay. So also you can automate, setting right and privilege on Jenkins using custom control script. That's possible that you have to do some, scripting activities for that. Also, you can limit the physical access of Jenkins data folder, and some of the folders, so only Jenkins user can have access to that. If you log into the server, then open Jenkins folder, so you have something called a Jenkins data folder, and then jobs folder and other folders can be used to secure as well. And the next thing is a periodically run security audition, and that's one of the things that each of the organization to do. Kind of, I mean, it looks like a little complicated, but it's not. You just learning to server every time. You just seeing who is have exercising. Is there any change in the exercise, and run some script that actually monitoring this does those audit automatically, right? So next question. So next question is explain how do you create a backup and copy file in Jenkins, okay? So this is also one of the way you can migrate Jenkins from one instance to another instance, right? The same process is applicable. The way you can do is actually there's a folder called jobs, and then inside the job directory, all the jobs will be stored. She had probably can take a copy of the whole jobs folder, right? And it actually takes that means you are actually showing it. Actually, you can copy it or you can clone it, and in different machines, then you reuse it. Okay, so that's basically for changing or when you're renaming an existing job, for example, name, then you have to make sure that the underlying jobs are in it. So to answer this question quickly, so it's a copy of the jobs folder that actually does the work. Okay. Okay, this is all the question about the continuous integration questions. Okay, so next video, I'm going to introduce more configuration management questions. Okay, this is for the videos, guys. Thank you so much for watching and have a good time. Happy learning.